Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Save $100 on the Craftsman V20 6-tool power tool combo kit, now at $199. No matter what the project is, Craftsman's high-quality, high-performance products empower you to build on. Stop by your nearest Lowe's store and check out the full line of Craftsman tools today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
This is VSiN By The Books on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We begin hour number 3. It is VSiN By The Books. I'm Dave Ross here at Circus Sports Fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Our closer, Jensen Lewis, back home in Cleveland, Ohio. Very quickly, Jensen, before we get to what happened last night, what's going to happen this weekend. You know, sometimes we talk about it. We talk about with Will Hill. I love these conversations with Will each and every week. That, like, you got to remember the wins that you get that you shouldn't get in what we do, always versus lamenting the losses, right? So, like, for instance, I had Cam Davis, first-round leader last week at the PGA Championship, 125-1, and I'm going to cash that ticket, right? It's 5 under par. And then some guy named Johnny Vegas comes out of nowhere and goes ballistic, birdies 5 of his last 6 holes, finishes at 7 under round 1. You don't cash that ticket. I go back to the well on Cam Davis this week at the Charles Schwab against in a tournament matchup against Michael Thor Bjornsson, really young, talented young American player. Cam Davis is awful. 6 over par, one of the worst rounds of the day, like tied for 129 at a 135 golfers. I'm going to lose that wager, Jensen. Thor Bjornsson hurts his wrist. He's got a WD, and here at Circa, that's a win, baby. Had it all the way. So sometimes you get a little bit of these lucky breaks and the ones that go against you. You got to balance those out, right? Or else you're always going to be like, I just remember the losses. You got to remember the good wins, too.
I can count this hockey postseason on puck lines that I had no business winning, that the hockey gods have shined out. So I'm experiencing a little regression, I think, here with Carolina, because I think the hockey gods are like, how selfish did you want to be? Did you see under a second? We gave it to you. Under a second, we get. How much more do you want? Okay. All right. I get you win. Let's get back on the winning ways tonight, though.
I love where your head's at. By the way, you're still way positive ROI, so you're still doing okay. Not so good if you've been betting Minnesota here in the first 2 games against OKC. Another dominant performance in the second half, third quarter specifically, just like game 1. It did kind of carbon copy that thing, so it's going to shift to Minnesota. I know the 3.5-point dogs on Saturday night here, but after the first 2, Jensen, if you're looking for signs of life from Minnesota, does it just have to be Ant-Man that he's going to have to go nuts for this team to have a chance?
I guess yes. And I mean, he gets 30 or more. They're in great shape. Now, I did yesterday, but it was just another defensive effort from the Thunder in that third quarter that shut down any momentum whatsoever. I think, and Jay McDaniels was good yesterday. Randall was a no-show. It's almost like you got to get, those 3 guys going at the same time. Gobert's got to find a way to be a contributor, even more so than what he's been. So, yeah, hey, here we go. Total team effort. You're down 0-2. Got to find a way, especially on home court.
I think you're right, though. It can't just be Ant, because he went for over 30 last night, and they were not competitive in that second half. So, again, overs cash last night. Minnesota, OKC easily covers those numbers as well. So, game 3 tomorrow night, 3.5 here for Oklahoma City as favorites on the road. That total at 217.5. The money line right now, OKC minus $1.62. You want to come back in the T-Wolves to get back some life, plus $1.36 to get that win in game number 3. How about on the night on ice? Carolina, similarly here, Jensen, non-competitive. They get shut out 5-0. The under does somehow cash as Carolina can't score, even though you get 5 on the board here from the Rats in Florida. And Bobrovsky, great shutout, but only 16 shots on goal here for Carolina. We're trying to find life in some of these playoff dogs here, whether it's Minnesota and or Carolina. It feels like this is even more dire straits because now you got to go to Sunrise on Saturday for game 3.
Yeah, I don't see any pathway to wanting to put any more hard-earned money on Carolina with what they've shown, and it's embarrassing to a certain point where you can't get 20 shots on goal in a playoff game. I think also that Florida senses the moment and is going to do everything possible to, I don't know if it'll be a 3-goal lead again, like they had, yesterday, but they're going to do everything possible to not allow Carolina to get up off the mat. So it almost feels as though you could potentially ladder a puck. I can't even believe I'm saying this. And I'm anxious to ask, JD coming up here later on about what that might look like for him and what he would think. But I wouldn't shy away from a 2.5. I don't know if I'm as adventurous on a 3.5, but we may be looking at that point because I just don't see any fight in Carolina right now.
So again, for tomorrow night here, back in Sunrise, Florida, you can imagine the Panthers, $1.48 betting favorite here in the money line. You want to get them on the puck line, plus $1.80. That total again at 5.5. And again, juice to the under, $1.25. So we'll get that full breakdown of that game and tonight's game between Edmonton and Dallas. That's game number 2 tonight with the aforementioned Jonathan Davis. That's coming up later on this hour. And we're going to really break down the NBA here in fuller detail, not just game 3 tomorrow night, but obviously game 2 tonight with the Knicks and Pacers. That's with Zachary Cohen coming up in the very next segment. Those are called teases. So you got to stick around with us here in hour number 3. But without further ado, I got to ask you, Jensen, is this news or a whole lot of noise?
Is it news?
Corleone is a man who insists on hearing bad news immediately.
Or just noise?
Are you going to act like this is news? Just noise. This is noise.
Let's separate the impactful from the insignificant with one simple question. News or noise?
We talked about it yesterday, and it did happen. College football execs have unanimously approved a straight seeding format for this year's college football playoffs. That means the teams will be seeded based on ranking, with the top 4 teams still getting the automatic buys. And yes, conference champions will still get automatic bids into the field. Jensen Lewis, news or noise?
Yeah, significant news because, and I wanted to bring it back up, when you look at, where those rankings were headed into last year's playoff, the iteration of it now with the new rules would have been Oregon the 1 seed, Georgia the 2, Texas would have been the 3 seed, and then Penn State the 4. So your opening round matchups would have been Notre Dame hosting Arizona State, Ohio State would have hosted Alabama, Tennessee would have hosted SMU, and then Indiana would have hosted Boise State. So that meant Clemson would have been out, of that picture. In which they were in as a 12 seed, the very last team in. So anxious to see now also from a voting and ranking perspective, will the committee factor this in even more so and raise some teams maybe higher than they deserve? All that can be played out. But bottom line, I think this puts more onus on the regular season. You got to win as many games and kind of a little bit homage back. But, we're also going to get playoff expansion here sooner than later.
You mentioned the homage back because, look, if you want to go back to the Stone Ages where you had a split national championship, say Colorado and Georgia Tech, right, at the beginning of 1990, you go way back when everything was just the writers. AP poll, that's what it's going to be. So we cured those days. It took forever to get there. With the BCS, that's the computer. We're going to go straight computer. We'll take out those writers. We're just going to pop it in, numbers come out, and that's the way it's going to be. Then we go away from that. So it does feel like we're kind of blending those two things in. But again, rankings are really going to matter here at the end of the year, Jensen, right? For that straight seeding that we're talking about. Do you like it that they keep tinkering with this thing? And look, last year was clearly not right. Like I think we could all see that something had to change. Is this the proper change in year 2 of the adjusted format system?
I think yes, in so much that it goes back to making sure that your conference games mean as much as your schedule too, because we were hearing thoughts about changes already for future scheduling, right? Of like, oh well, if this is going to be the case, well then we'll schedule quite differently in our non-conference. So now it kind of puts the onus back on every week counts and every week matters, which is what we all want in college football.
Yeah, we do want them to. And last year you did get the feel that, when Michigan beats an Ohio State at the end of the year, not that it didn't, it certainly matters in those necks of the wood, that. But from a bigger perspective, not so much, at least from the Ohio State side, as they go on to win the national championship. By the way, Ohio State is the odds-on favorite right now. Excuse me, not odds-on, but they are the favorite at plus $5 here to win the national championship again. Texas, the second betting choice, at plus 550. Georgia, plus 650. Penn State, plus 750. Rounding out the short shots inside of 10-1. Oregon at plus 850 to get that done today. If you want to bet the ponies, by the way, you can always do so because VSiN at the Track goes live today with everything you need to know to break down the Belmont Stakes. Yeah, we got one more big race to go here when it comes to the Triple Crown, and you can join our racing experts here, Mike Somich, Aaron Halterman. They're going to break down the field, give sharp analysis, and reveal their top plays. Do not miss it. It's VSiN at the Track, streaming live today, 2:10 p.m. Eastern on the VSiN YouTube channel and at VSiN Live. So no Triple Crown this year, obviously, but you do get back the Derby winner into the Belmont, and then we'll see how journalism fares here after winning the Preakness. What do you make of that, Jensen, that we didn't even have the opportunity to get a Triple Crown winner? Like, selfishly for me, I'm like, man, come on, race them. Like, I want to see us. You don't get that shot at history when they pull them, and then say, all right, we're going to race them later on at the bigger track at Belmont. Not going to do it at the Preakness. I always feel like we get cheated of that opportunity of winning that Triple Crown.
Here's what it is, my friend.
Yeah.
Here's what it is.
All about the Benjamins.
That's what it all is, man. Sorry.
Gonna pull that horse, and we don't care what you think back there in Las Vegas, that's for sure. By the way, very quickly here, they are underway right now at the Charles Schwab. And remember, it was the Scotty Scheffler grouping that was with Davis Riley and with Daniel Berger. They went out late yesterday, Jensen, so they're already on the course here. So we'll see if we can get some of those live numbers here before the end of the show. But they're out there already on the course in Dallas. When we come back, Zachary Cohen's going to join us to break down what could be a wild scene tonight at Madison Square Garden. It doesn't get a whole lot wilder than what we saw in game number 1. What will we see in game number 2? That is next here. VSiN by the Books.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Tuned in to VSiN by the Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back, VSiN by the Books on this Friday edition. Dave Ross, Jensen Lewis here with you, and always love catching up with Zachary Cohen. Does a great job here as a senior writer and editor at VSiN.com, and you can give him a follow with one of the best handles on X. I don't care what anybody else says. Betting on X for Zach Cohen. Zach, you were all over this Pacer run. You saw it coming a long time ago. What was the number you got? Was it 40-1 for the Pacers to win the Eastern Conference?
It was 44-1, yeah.
Okay, so now when they get to this stage, and then you see forget about the great comeback for a second. When they're down 14 with a couple minutes to go, are you thinking, oh man, I got to hedge the Knicks? I'm sure you already did before the series began. But were you thinking this is why you hedge?
Yeah, I mean, I hedged it before the series, and as they were down 14, I'm like, they're going to lose this series in 5 or less games. Now, all of a sudden, it's looking really live to win. So, yeah, that game was absolutely bananas. I can't wait to see what happens tonight. The atmosphere at MSG is going to be insane, and I think the Pacers are getting too many points tonight.
Yeah, that's where I kind of wanted to start, because I told Dave the same thing yesterday. I was like, I feel like the Knicks are heavy at even 5.5, 6. But I wonder where, from a specific player or maybe a group on this game in particular, what has to go right now for that? Because for all intents and purposes, it was just a bad 2 to 3 minutes. All right. Outside of that, Brunson did his thing. Cat did his thing. I highlighted OG Anunoby, Zach, maybe tonight as a guy that could also be part of the supporting cast and up his game a little bit. How do you look at where this plays out for either side to win?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Nemhard's going to have a really good game. We saw him kind of get cooking towards the end of that game and in the overtime where he started to kind of isolate against Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson in space, started to put his head down and just attack the rim and kind of bump Brunson off a little bit and get to the step back jumper that he's really good at in the mid-range area. I had Nemhard to go over points and assists at 16.5 last game. It was minus 125. You're getting a better number on it tonight, and I think that he kind of found his rhythm in the series in that extra 5 minutes. So I would expect him to come out and play much better to start a game 2. I would agree with you that it's going to be a better game for OG Anunoby, especially, defensively, because I thought that he was one of the ones that was a main culprit for the comeback, just kind of losing, Nesmith off the ball. And it was really everybody on the Knicks side. I wrote in my column at VSiN.com, I don't know how much of that was just, it's the end of a game. We already won this. We don't need to guard them anymore. How much of it was they got really tired from the Pacers playing a little bit faster, a little bit more physical, pressing all game. I thought that the Knicks were noticeably tired when the overtime period came around, especially Brunson. I thought that the physicality got to him, and, he didn't even play that much because of foul trouble. So I think that the Pacers are going to look to speed it up again tonight and try to get their legs tired again.
It's interesting. If you go back, I don't know if you saw it, Zach, when it happened in real time, but OG Anunoby looked like he was kind of chirping a little bit at Cat, and this is in a timeout in mid-collapse. But it's still a 5-point Knick lead at this point inside of a minute to play. I think there's about 30 seconds to go before the histrionics to end that thing. That, coupled with the pressure, as you mentioned, that Indiana is going to employ offensively, and that crowd. Like, do you factor that into the handicap, that negative energy that could come from the Garden? Because, man, if it goes south again early, they're going to let you know in New York that, oh, my goodness, what just happened from 2 nights ago and now potentially could be looking at 0-2. Does that factor in that crowd, the ambiance, and maybe that negative energy that we're seeing from the players themselves?
I don't think so. I think that the Knicks are a really tough team mentally, and I think that Tibbs is a really good coach when it comes to just, flushing a previous game and getting them ready for the next one. And I will say, the one thing that did scare me going into this game, I wrote it at VSiN, is the zigzag theory. JVT sent me a stat. The team that lost the previous game in this playoffs, 35-18-1 against the spread in the next game. So that is why you're seeing, the spread balloon from 4.5 out to 6, and even 6.5 at one spot. I just don't believe in that way of thinking. It's just really tough for me as someone that likes to look at numbers, likes to evaluate the teams. I just saw this team win on the road, so now I'm getting a better price with them. I want to take it. And I do think that in this specific case, you're also talking about a team that I believe is much better coached than the Knicks. I know I just said that Tibbs is a good motivator, but Rick Carlisle, in terms of X's and O's, is unbelievable. And I believe he's 3-2 both straight up and against the spread in game 2 since arriving in Indiana. I think he's going to do a better job of getting his team prepared from a tactic standpoint than Tibbs is.
I love that angle, Zach, and I'll put a bow on it for you here because Dave and I have kind of been going back and forth for teams that are down, and I'll parlay this 2 ways for you. For the Knicks to come back not only to win this series, but also to win the finals. Brunson is 9-1 right now as finals MVP. Would assume that, if you like the Pacers here, Halliburton 8-1. And just going up, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, almost a $3 betting favorite to be the finals MVP. Let me ask you about Timberwolves Thunder, because Dave and I also thought if there was any path for the T-Wolves to get it back, it feels must win, obviously. Anthony Edwards, 22-1 as a finals MVP. So assuming the Wolves come back, shock the world, beat the Thunder, and go on to win it, is that an angle you'd want to attack? And is Minnesota alive whatsoever still here in the West?
The Edwards one is interesting because I did see some look-ahead lines, and I believe they'd be minus 160 against the Pacers and minus 145 against, or maybe it got that flipped. So maybe minus 160 against the Knicks, minus 145 against the Pacers.
Wow.
But the Timberwolves would be favored against the Eastern Conference winners. So Edwards would be a great bet to win MVP at that point. So that's definitely a way to play it if you want to jump on Minnesota. I'm not sure what to make of that series yet. I liked Minnesota going into it. I had plus 2.5 games. I had some futures on that on that team that don't look as good as the Pacers one right now. I do think that the Timberwolves are going to get one of these 2 games at home, but obviously they need to get both of them. I think that Minnesota, needs to be a little bit better defensively, and they need to be better at taking care of the basketball, because they did a lot of the things from game 1 to game 2 that we needed to see. They were attacking the basket a lot more. They weren't settling for as many threes or as many bad threes. Edwards was a lot more aggressive at attacking the rim. That's exactly what we called for. They just can't turn the ball over and just, dump it away against a team that is that good in transition. You're really putting yourself in a huge hole. So if they can't clean that up, they're going to get beat pretty quick. I do think that they're going to win one of these games at home, though, and game 3 is probably the most likely one. So I will probably be on Minnesota money line.
All right, before the Eastern and Western Conference Finals began, OKC was a $1.65 betting favorite to win the championship. They're now $2.95. You got to lay almost $3 here for OKC to win the title. So I look at that and I go, man, is there any value left in either the Pacers or the Knicks? Pacers are plus 550, Knicks are plus 850. Obviously, the T-Wolves to shock the world, not only OKC, but win the whole thing, is back to 20-1. Is that a fair price in Oklahoma City? I don't want to lay $3 or $3 on anything here in that kind of juice, but should they be that big a favorite, or either over the Knicks and or the Pacers?
I think so. I mean, if you want to take Oklahoma City to win the title, I would take them now. If you want to take the Pacers or the Knicks, I'd probably wait, just because I wouldn't want to have to deal with this series. And I do think we're still going to see 6 or 7 games between the Pacers and Knicks.
Yeah, it's fascinating dynamic now because of where you look at Minnesota. And I was with you on the money line last night. I told Dave I thought Minnesota would be able to at least get an equalizer, create that momentum heading back forth. Keys for you, who wins and why tonight here for Knicks and Pacers, both sides? Pacers win because blank, Knicks win because blank.
Pacers win because they attack Jalen Brunson again the way that they did towards the end of that game. He was not able to really guard anyone. And then, because everybody else kind of had to raise their focus and attention off the ball, they were, kind of slipping back door for a lot of easy buckets at the rim. So that's why the Pacers would win, just kind of offensive execution against a bad defensive team. And if the Knicks win, it's maybe some more Mitch and Towns combination. I think that those two did really well together, just kind of dominating the glass, slowing down the game, mucking it up a little bit for Indiana. And I honestly, the Knicks don't need to change much. They were the better team for 4 quarters. That's what you got to tell yourselves if you're New York. You pretty much had the game won. You were up 17. Do more of the same and just don't lose your focus at the end of it.
You mentioned it, Zach, that if you look ahead a little bit for OKC with that dominating 2-0 lead, dominating the fashion in which they won those first 2, they'd be a $6 betting favorite over the Pacers. How about that? $5 betting favorite over the Knicks. And again, you think those are fair prices out there? If those, obviously, it's going to be one of those 2 matchups.
Especially at the minus 290 if you just take it now. Because honestly, as high as I was on Minnesota, it just doesn't look like they're going to win that series now. Yeah,
there could be some value in that big favorite right now, almost a $3 betting favorite. Zach, we appreciate it, man. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. We'll catch up again next week and see how these series shake out.
Thanks, guys. A bunch of French Open stuff up at VSiN.com right now.
Oh, really? I don't speak French, but I love tennis, so we'll check it out. Betting on X is the handle. We appreciate Zach joining us here in the Progressive Guest Line. And again, as Zach's alluding to, when you become a VSiN Pro subscriber, you get access to all of those picks, like the French Open as well. 2 extra months for free, by the way, by using the promo code PRO. So it's $199 for the next 14 months. So you get your daily best bets emailed to you, exclusive betting splits, access to the VSiN Watch app, and that NFL betting guide, win totals, who's going to win the Super Bowl, how about the divisions. It's all going to be there for you in that NFL betting guide when you become a VSiN Pro subscriber at VSiN.com/subscribe. Coming up next, talking all things Stanley Cup playoffs with the one and only Jonathan Davis, next here at VSiN By The Books.
VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
Enjoyed the conversation with Zach Cohen in the last segment, talking NBA playoffs. Always enjoy the conversations with Jonathan Davis, talking Stanley Cup playoffs as well. Of course, our VSiN NHL Betting Analyst joins us here in the Progressive Guest Line. Give him a follow on X as we do at West Coast Hockey. It's HKY to end out that handle. And Jonathan, we're talking about the parallels a little bit from the game ones in the NBA and the NHL, right? The dramatic turns that we saw with the way the Pacers came back against the Knicks. Not as dramatic if you're Edmonton, but you were up 3-1 going into that third period, and then you do give up 5 goals and get run out in Dallas 6-3. Is it easy to turn the page on a game like that, or is it much more difficult going, man, arguably we had a real good shot to be up 1-0, and not only were we not close, but we end up getting blown out by 3 at the end of the day. How is that juxtaposition of we feel like we're in control, and then all of a sudden we're down 0-1?
Well, guys, the worthy what you hear from players and coaches all the time, and I don't think it's just coach speak or generic player talk. It's that momentum goes from shift to shift and not from game to game in the playoffs. And so I think for Edmonton, it's really easy to turn the page. I mean, look, this is a team that was down 3-0 to Florida in the Stanley Cup final last year and forced a Game 7. Yeah, look, their problem in game number 1 is that they got undisciplined. They took way too many penalties. 5-on-5, they were the better team. They were the better team for 40 minutes in game 1. So I think the recipe is pretty simple. Just stay out of the penalty box, and you should be in good shape.
JD, first of all, always great getting your nuggets every morning before we jump on the air here and help our great people out. Of course, VSiN.com for all your awesome insights and stuff. One that we've looked at, and as it pertains to Dallas tonight, and I cannot get away from them being the side, but revisionist history shows us, you've always said when you have Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl on a team, you're always live. Do we continue and just blindly say it's Stuart Skinner, game 1, game 2, game 3, and we wait till game 4 before we even take a look at Edmonton's side?
Well, so here's the way I've decided to approach things, at least pre-flop. And that is, guys, I've been sticking to playing both teams on the puck line. And so the dog on the alternate puck line of -1.5. I did that last night. I had both Florida and Carolina at -1.5, took a small profit. Did the same thing in game 1 of the Dallas-Edmonton series. I'll do the same thing tonight. So you can get Dallas at -1.5 at about +200, or Edmonton -1.5 at plus around 230. And that's what I'm going to do. And then I'll go in-game. I mean, last night for me, I was tweeting out a lot of live plays. And I ended up live playing Florida's team total at over 3.5. I mean, I had them pre-flop at over 2.5, and then I actually played the -3.5 goals to win the game. So I think I'm gonna wait for a lot of live in-game opportunities.
What about now? We talked about it last time we had you on about Connor McDavid last year when they got to the finals and lost. Would you look at if you think Edmonton can still rally in this thing and get back in or win this series against Dallas, would you rather play McDavid to win the Conn Smythe at 5-1 and or the Oilers to win the Stanley Cup at 4-1? Sometimes that dollar difference, does it make enough for you to take the outlier on the Conn Smythe versus the team of winning it at 4-1?
No, I'd rather play Leon Draisaitl at 15-1 to win the Conn Smythe.
Ooh.
For me, he's the driving force for Edmonton. Guys, he's got as many points as Connor. Their numbers are kind of reversed. Connor, I think Leon's at 6 goals and 13 assists for 19 points, and Connor's at 3 goals and 16 assists for 19 points. I like Draisaitl from the Edmonton perspective. Look, I think he's got a really good shot to win the Hart Trophy, the MVP for the regular season. He was a guy that I had in the summer, and I think I got him at 20-1 to win the regular season MVP. On the Florida side, I mean, look, right now it's Bobrovsky. The number's really short at +370, but like I always say, if I can make almost 4-1 on my money, it's still worth it to me.
I love it because we had preached if you like any of these teams getting to the Stanley Cup final, the goaltenders are the way to go. We may need an investigation into Carolina. I told Dave, I think they're in the no-fly zone for me from now on. I cannot put any of my hard-earned Benjamins on them whatsoever with what I've seen. And as a former athlete, JD, it's more disappointing because you work all year to get to this spot, a chance to get to the Stanley Cup final. You got home ice. And those are the first 2 games you put out there. I mean, I would be going back in that locker room and looking around and saying, well, what the hell else do we have here, fellas? Because we got embarrassed. We're going to try and take this show on the road. Like, something's got to change. It's got to change quick.
Yeah, it does. And it's 14 consecutive losses in the third round. Look, I was talking to you guys about this during the break. Rod Brindamore knows how to coach one way and one way only, and that is it's basically a full court press on the ice. The problem is that Florida can handle the full court press, and they've got far more skill than the Carolina Hurricanes do. Carolina's got one game breaker on their team, and that's Andrei Svechnikov. And I said to you guys before the series started, we all have as many goals against Sergei Bobrovsky as Andrei Svechnikov does, and he's played now 17 games against Bobrovsky, and he hasn't scored a goal. 8 goals in the first 2 rounds. Sebastian Aho's their next best goal scorer. He had a goal last night for about 20 seconds until video review took it away for offside. There's just not enough there. And the crazy thing to me is, they've got 9 guys that were there against Florida that played on this team 2 years ago when they got swept by Florida. They have 5 guys still on the team that were there when they got swept in the 3rd round for a second time. So, it kind of plays into your head. And then for Rod Brindamore, he was a player when this sweep in the 3rd round started for the Carolina Hurricanes. And Jordan Stahl's brother, Eric, was also on that team with Rod Brindamore when they got swept the first time. So a Stahl brother has been a part of 14 consecutive 3rd round losses. The coach has been there for 14 consecutive 3rd round losses. At some point, it's got to play into your head. And last night, I think the most disappointing thing for me is that, look, they had 18 shots or 17 shots, 18 shots on goal, I think it was. I mean, that's not Carolina Hurricanes hockey. Florida just smothered them. I mean, Carolina's got averaged the 2nd most shots on goal in the playoffs, around 32 or 33. I don't know what the answer is for them right now, and I'm sure Rod Brindamore, if he could, he'd probably want to get on the ice and start playing.
Yeah, only 16 shots. Brindamore wants to get out there, get some rover on net there. They have now drifted, obviously, plus 475 to come back and win the series against the Panthers. You got to play the next 2 in Sunrise here. They're 10-1 to win the Cup. Florida is now plus $1.15 to repeat as Stanley Cup champions, not knowing theoretically who their opponent would be out west. Is that a number that you'd be willing to play, or would you rather wait, Jonathan, and see if it is going to be, in fact, Dallas and or Edmonton?
I think I'd rather wait and maybe try to get like a series spread play for the Stanley Cup final. 115, I think there are better plays. I would rather, if you think that Florida's going to win the Cup, then I would play Bob at plus 370 than Florida at plus 115.
That seems to make the most sense, right? You get well over $2 in value here on Bobrovsky. Conversely here for Dallas and Edmonton with Game 2 tonight, and you mentioned you like the Draisaitl side here if you're Edmonton. Is it Ottinger or bust it would have to be for if Dallas was ultimately the team that wins the Stanley Cup?
I mean, he's kind of like the default plays, the easy play guys, because there really hasn't been a standout for Dallas. I mean, early on it was Mikko Rantanen, but he hasn't really, he's quieted down since he had that offensive explosion for 3 games, being a part of 12 or 13 consecutive goals. I mean, Ottinger at plus 850, sure. I mean, why not? It's a great price. The next player on Dallas is Mikael Granlund at 70-1. I think Granlund had a nice goal. He's got 4 goals now, I think, or 5 in the playoffs. At 70-1, why not? But if you're going to play Dallas, yeah, sure. I mean, there's really not a clear-cut player, and it's easy to take the goalie. But Ottinger, he was good in game 1 of this series. He shut the door after giving up after Dallas had the lead, but he hasn't been outstanding.
I look at this too, and like we talked about here with Jensen at the top of the show, John, if they do lose tonight, Edmonton, I am going to play them if they're down 0-2 and Stuart Skinner turns back into Superman. You have to at this point, don't you?
Absolutely. It's his time.
That's it.
It's his time. No question.
All right, so Skinner gets into the phone booth, comes out as Superman for games 3 and 4. Just avoid him on games 1 and 2. JD, we appreciate it as always, my friend. Always love catching up every Friday. We'll do it again next week.
All right, guys. Take care.
There he is, everybody.
Weekend.
Give him a follow on X. Great tidbits, too, for VSiN Pro subscribers. Check him out at West Coast Hockey. But again, Jensen, as you pointed out, when you go to VSiN.com, those write-ups going to be there each and every day from JD going forward. And, yeah, you have to back Edmonton if they lose tonight and they're down 0-2. It's like Scotty Scheffler 10-1. Just put it in there in the account. Auto bet it, and you'll be happier. When we come back, we will give you our best bets. That is next here on VSiN By The Books.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You're tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back, VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross alongside Jensen Lewis. Great conversation with JD, Jonathan Davis, the Iceman. Yeah, I'm kind of rooting for the Stars tonight, Jensen. Then we're going to come back and play the... I will auto bet it tonight if my legs still work after my 3-mile hike with my nephew and my sister. If they still working, I get to my phone and on the app. I'm going to play Edmonton if they're down 0-2. Is that, like, we're confident in that, right? That Stuart Skinner, for whatever reason, the numbers bear out. He's terrible in games 1 and 2. And then all of a sudden he just flips the switch once you get later in the series. I don't know why it happens that way, but it does happen.
I mean, I'm not putting anything in yet on the Stars. I obviously do lean the money line. You know me, I'm a sucker for a puck line anywhere, but I don't know if I'm there yet just tonight because there is so much being made of it. That being said, I will not be deterred. Dallas on home ice, I don't care if it takes to OT. I think they can get it done. So short enough price there on the money line that you feel pretty good about it. But I'm with JD too. If you want to just feel like this is a 2-puck or more, or you know, if it's a 2-goal or more margin, then just go ahead and lock in your profit now.
I will say this again: when it was 3-1 after the second period in Game 1, I went, "Oh, yeah, that Stuart Skinner narrative, right? Oh, there it go." And then the third period happened, 5 goals, and you go, "Oh, it did work again." Let's get to our best bets. They're brought to us by G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. Got some baseball plays that I want to get to that you have now in pocket here. And again, VSiN Pro subscribers, Jensen's going to update these as the picks come in. But let's start off with the Orioles and the Sox here. Maybe get some runs potentially in Game 2 today?
Yeah, so it's Kate Povich, Brian Bayo. So day-night double dip up there in Fenway, and nothing on that first game, but do want to attack what is in all likelihood going to be a bullpen game for Baltimore in Game 2. Lucas Giolito going to get the start for the Red Sox. I got it at 9.5. It's already up to 10. So we're in good shape there. Also took the run line there for the Red Sox in Game 2. I believe I got that one at plus $1.50. Yep. I can't remember if that was DraftKings or FanDuel, but do like Game 2, the angles there, knowing a lot of relievers here, potential 27th man for Baltimore in the nightcap.
All right, so that's going to be your play in Game 2 of that double dip today in Beantown. Cubs and Reds, we mentioned it. Hunter Green's going to be back. Sometimes it's not necessarily the best, but we know he is their best when he is right. Does that get you to maybe an under in this place sitting at 8.5 right now?
I just think they're going to be a bit more gentle with him first start back, Dave. I do think he'll have his full complement, but they may err on the side of caution, just getting him back, getting him healthy through the start. So they may curtail him. I do still like the under here. We talked about it in Daily Diamond, but I'm also going to the Cubs on the run line plus $1.50. And as I said, I could envision this being, a 5-2 Cubs win. Reds bullpen has still been a bit suspect, but it's been more a play on the inconsistency of their offense. So Great American launching pad at night. We'll take the under 8.5 and the Cubs on the run line plus $1.50.
Yeah, one thing we know about the Reds, when they score in bunches, and when they don't score. So, they're going to be hard-pressed here. They better get a couple runs here for Hunter Green if they're going to be in contention to win this game, or else you're probably going to hit that run line play there at solid plus money on the Cubs side here. Braves and Padres, at the ATL, and I did not see the wheels coming off for San Diego, but the fathers are really struggling right now.
Yeah, extra inning loss north of the border. I guess there's rumors of a players-only meeting before getaway day. Told you that's never good.
Nope.
Some words exchanged perhaps between some star players. So a little infighting there. Hey, listen, multiple opportunities to win yesterday in Toronto. Could not get it done. Now you got to come down to Truist Park, go up against Chris Sale. Always a tough customer there. I have the Braves on the run line. There are a lot of hitters. If you're looking for player props, a lot of hitters that have good numbers against the starter for the Padres and Nick Pivetta. Marcell Ozuna has 6 bombs in his career.
Wow.
Off of Nick Pivetta. So if you're looking to take a shot on a home run prop tonight, that's a guy to really back.
So all of a sudden the Blue Jays are red hot, but you think this might be a spot to zigzag a little bit and go the other way with the Rays today? Maybe play them on the run line?
And it's really more so on just the pitching matchup here, Dave. And again, Rays at home. Left-handed bats, always ones you want to look at for both sides. But Drew Rasmussen going to get the start for Tampa Bay there at George Steinbrenner Field. Eric Lauer on the hill for Toronto. So more a play against Lauer here. Yes, here we go again. Another run line. Rays plus $1.40 in that spot there. Again, I think this is a one ballpark that you and I will keep an eye on in the preceding weeks here, knowing what the conditions, particularly in day games, could look like from the wind blowing out. A lot of the metrics now lending it to similar conditions as Wrigley Field when it blows out. So we'll keep an eye on that day in, day out.
Guardians were all over the Motor City Kitties yesterday, 7-0 shutout there in Detroit. What about game 2 of this series? What's the angle today?
By the way, if you saw any of the highlights yesterday, that is one of the worst places to sit outside when it is cold. It was perfect flu weather yesterday. It was just brutal. It just stopped raining here in Cleveland for the last 2 days. So obviously with Detroit being north of us, they get everything we get. So Slade Ciccone, who was okay coming off the IL for the Guardians in his first start, he goes up against Jackson Jobe. Listen, this Guardians offense has not had a lot to write home about. They might have expended it all yesterday, scoring 7. I think we get some regression to the mean here. Do like the Tiger offense to be able to bounce back in a big way. Nice little price here. I got it at plus 154. It's up to plus 175 there at Circa. So again, still think a multi-run victory in the cards here for the Detroit Tigers tonight.
I know you don't have an official play in this game, but I got to ask you about Clayton Kershaw back in the bump here for the Dodgers against the Metropolitans today. In New York City, Canning's going to take the bump here. Griffin Canning for the Metropolitans. It's been really good so far this year. What do you make now? Like the pitching woes of L.A., can Kershaw, old man Clayton, be what they need to cure what ails them?
It's almost going to be out of necessity just with all the injuries to the Dodger rotation. Right now I would lean towards the Dodger money line. What are they, $1.20? I think right now, depending on where you look. Of course, always fun to back Ohtani, individual player props there. This is a spot where you and I talked earlier in the week with how the Mets offense has been very inconsistent. This could have been a homestand, and it still may be. This is a big 3-team homestand. So they get the Dodgers, then they get the White Sox, then they get the lowly Colorado Rockies. And I circled this first series because of all the issues in run prevention that the Dodgers starting pitching staff has had. So they're not going to face the gangbusters here, at least on paper. The Mets won't, but they've got to get it going in their own right. And if they are able to do that, you looked at this series as potentially a jumping off point, knowing you've got a lot, or at least the path of least resistance with the White Sox and then the Rockies to follow.
Kershaw on the bump. They're $1.15 right now at DraftKings. Griffin Canning come back there is $1.05 in the Metropolitans. And I'm looking at Kershaw these days, and Jensen, it reminds me of Frank Tanana back in the 70s in Minnesota, and they said he threw 90 in the 70s and 70 in the 90s. Like, is that what we're getting from Kershaw these days?
Listen, bud, the fact that he's still going,
right,
with all the back injuries, the issues he's had to deal with overall, he'll go down as one of the probably the greatest left-hander of our era, outside of Randy Johnson. It's tough to match the career that he's put up. Could he have won a few more World Series? Of course, well documented about his postseason issues in the past, but to still be doing it, and they're going to need him to give quality start. I think that's amazing. The biggest storyline here is all this money, all of it invested in Glass now, in Snell, Sasaki.
And you
They're
need
all in the
Kirsch.
IL.
Yep.
You need the old pickup truck to come in and save you right here. So anxious to see what he does.
Yeah, if he wasn't playing the Mets, I'd certainly be rooting for him tonight. Any other night, I'd root for Clayton Kershaw back on the bump. By the way, GBank is introducing a $500 trifecta from GBank First Bet and VSiN. All you have to do is open up a GBank Visa Signature credit card. Now, in the first 90 days, deposit and play through $1,000 at First Bet to trigger the $500 trifecta. So you're going to get $200 in cashback rewards on your GBank Visa Signature credit card. First Bet's going to give you a $100 deposit match. VSiN is then going to complete the trifecta with a free VSiN Pro subscription through August 31st. That's a value of $200 right then and there. So that's the $500 trifecta from GBank, First Bet, and VSiN. Head to VSiN.com/GBank. That's VSIN.com/GBank. This is a one-time promotion, people. It's limited to customers opening up a new account. In response to this offer will not apply to requests to convert existing accounts. So new customers, you're in luck. Apply today. Terms and conditions do apply. Jensen, a lot of fun as always all week long, and we appreciate Brandon Valesky, Danny, everybody doing a great job here on the show as we do. Hopefully, I'll see you Monday, my friend, if my legs hold up from the hike, and we'll do it all over again then. But don't go anywhere. Numbers games coming up next year with Gil Alexander and Kelly Bidwin. That's next year on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.